Hey guys, this is Caroline back again with this week's Woo Money Mastery video. And this week, I really want to talk about, why it's so hard to talk to other people about money and ways that you can make it easier. So this topic came up, this question was asked during our live that we had last week. And we kind of dove into it just a little bit. But this week, I really, want to give you guys some more tips and strategies and just to kind of help you feel that you're not alone, that it is hard to have conversations with other people in your life about money. Um, so this kind of was brought up because someone was asking about, how to even bring up the topic of finances with their partner and how to get them on board. And I just mentioned off the cuff that, even for someone like myself where I love talking about this stuff, I have a newer partner and it's a little uncomfortable for me to even bring it up too, right? So I wanted to dive into kind of why do we struggle so much? Why is it such a challenge to talk to people about money? And, I think the biggest takeaway is it is an emotional subject, not necessarily money, but all the things that it represents, right? We've all had different upbringings. We've all had different experiences with it. Our parents have taught us different things. There's a lot of values tied into it, in addition to thoughts and feelings about yourself and how you perceive the world and how you show up and things like that. And for for something that is so unique to each one of us, no wonder it's going to be difficult to make a connection with someone else because they bring their own perspective and everything to the table as well. And I think because it's so personal and it does bring up a lot of emotions, that's why it's hard for people if they're having a conversation with someone else, it's really easy to naturally revert back to the us versus them mentality type of thing and maybe feeling like you're attacked, especially, if you're not necessarily confident in some of the money choices that you've made in your life so far and you're having that discussion with someone else, you may feel judged for that. So I think, the first thing I want to just kind of let you know is that you are absolutely not alone. It is totally normal to feel uncomfortable when you're having conversations about money with, important people in your life, whether it's your partner or your children or anyone like that. I do just want to encourage you to just the importance of having these conversations. The more you do them, the more you get used to them, the more comfortable you become, the more you kind of start hearing what the other person is saying instead of just having that emotional wall up. So I just really want to encourage you to do that. I know in California, not too long ago, they passed legislation that making it so that you are not going to be penalized or retaliated against by your employer if you discuss your pay with your coworkers, right? So that's a really big step too, just kind of opening the doors to having these conversations. Um, you know, the two main points that I want to touch on today probably are, having conversations about money with your partner and having conversations about money with your kids. So when it comes to your partner, well, for both of these conversations, I really encourage you to take time in advance to kind of get clear about what you want to talk about. So if there's something that happened that, made you want to bring up the topic of money, right? Was there an incident that happened, something that was spent that shouldn't have been, or, you're kind of low on funds, something like that. You get really clear what the catalyst is for this conversation. Did you read a recent book or article and it really got you thinking? I think coming to that other person and setting that stage so that they know where this is all coming from is really helpful to them so that they don't come off feeling defensive either. And then also try to figure out what you want to get out of it, right? Everyone is learning this as we go along. And especially if you have someone else involved, it needs to be a collaborative process, right? So if you're coming to them, kind of let them know what kind of your goal of the conversation is, whether it's there's this problem and I don't know the answer and I would like to kind of collaborate with you, or it's, I've been noticing this issue that's been coming up. just kind of like let them know where you kind of expect for it to go. As you're developing this skill about talking about money with the people in your life, I also just want to let you know that it's okay to take a pause, right? Um, Things can get emotional, things can get heated, and this is not like an us versus them, right? It's you are working with them to solve the problem or to discuss the problem, right? So if things start to get heated, I just really encourage you to pause and, you know, agree that you guys can regroup about it, right? You guys can say, you know what, I don't know the answer to that question that you're asking me about. Let's take a pause. We'll revisit this in a week. Or, you know what, I'm starting to get a bit frustrated and flustered. Let's take a pause on this and we can come back to this like this weekend or something like that. So I just, want to give you the confidence to know that it's totally okay that you don't have all the answers. There are so many variables when it comes to personal finance and budgeting, right? Like, um, people believe there are better things to do than others, but again, that comes based on their experience and their values and just the life that they've lived up to this point, right? So there isn't necessarily a right or a wrong answer, and I think it's really empowering to be able to admit that, right? Because when you do that, you also give them permission to do the same. And I think if the roles were reversed, and they didn't have all the right answers or they weren't quite sure, you would really appreciate if they put a pause on the conversation as well. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful about talking with partners about money. And this is like life partners in all situations. It could be like a spouse that you have. It could be, a sibling that you're making big financial decisions with, maybe regarding family. It could be a parent, just kind of anyone that is really like another peer in this decision making capability. And then kind of flowing along to kids, I really want to encourage you to start having conversations with your children about money. Now, this is another one we're getting really clear on, like your values and your goals is really important before you go into it. And I also do want to caution you that at different ages, children have different like developmental abilities of understanding what money is, right? Like at the end of the day, money is just a man-made construct that we all just kind of like came together on to start, like assigning things value, right? So, yeah, so just kind of like make sure that you're setting the stage with your kids, right? If you want to teach them about, making better decisions with their money, maybe frame it in a more positive light, or give them like a smaller example, right? About like maybe if we're going out to dinner, we don't want to spend all the money on appetizers or fries or something because we want to save a little bit of it to get ice cream in a week or something, like, so even if maybe you're going through some financial challenges and you kind of like want to tighten up your spending and get your kids involved, it's great to have them involved, but again, kind of like keep it to a place where they feel safe and like they can participate in their capacity. There are so many fantastic resources out online, too, that I would really recommend. I'm going to drop some links down below for you. But in terms of like talking with another like partner, the Gottman Institute is fantastic. Dr. John and Julie Gottman. They are the premier experts on human adult relationships, right? You can just go to their website and in their blog section, search for money. And, it's a really important conversation to have. It is kind of one of the leading reasons for divorce in the United States. So, just know if you're struggling with it, you are not alone, but there are resources out there to help you. And when it comes to kids, I found this awesome article by Parents Magazine, and it kind of just gives you examples of what kids understand about money at different ages and stages, right? And that was something that I used when I was making decisions about, bringing like kind of what capacity I wanted to bring up money and finances with my kids. Personally, in our house, I do give them a small allowance. And when they were younger, when I started doing that, we started it with cash, right? That way they could actually see the dollars and cents and start to put it together, right? It was a tangible object. And when they, went to the book fair, they exchanged it and then they got something in return. So they started to see how the process works. Now that they're older, we're learning about things like interests and savings accounts. And, so it's just because something starts off one way in your family doesn't mean that it can change and evolve going forward. So there's a lot of like fun and flexibility, and it's cool to be able to like develop these values and relationships with your kids and your family as you move forward, and to like really get everyone's buy-in to it. So I just really want to encourage you to keep having those conversations. If you have any more questions for me about this topic, leave me a comment down below, send me a message. I'm happy to kind of help troubleshoot kind of whatever your stuck point is, or just to hear about kind of how you're incorporating these kinds of things into your families. All right, have a great time. Have a great night. I will talk to you guys all next week. Bye.